That's DB. I'm Ravi Lula here on the Pillar Exterior stage. It is time for Bet On It, brought to you by Warhorse Sportsbook. Warhorse, the best place in Nebraska to place your sports bets. Make sure you get to the casinos in Lincoln or Omaha. You can place parlays, straight bets, props, whatever you can think. In-game, you know
Props.
me. I love some props. I love some in-game. That's how I like to roll. You can place bets on nearly every major sporting event.
You treat me like a prop. That's why it's the props you like.
Go to warhorsecasino.com for more info. Before we get into Bet On It, though, let's get to TK here. He wants to talk about the O-line. I'm shocked. He wants to talk about the O-line and what Schaefer said about it. What's going on, TK?
Good morning, fellas. Schaefer was talking about the O-line, and so I felt like I was summoned.
I'll say, your ears start burning a little bit?
Just a little bit.
What's up, buddy?
At first I thought I was going to disagree with him, but I unfortunately agree with Schaefer a little bit.
What do you got? Talk to me.
Well, I think we need to see some Sammy Sledge and some Brock Knutson in replacement for ye old Bryce Benhart and Ben Scott.
Yeah, you were texting me during the game that you were a little taken aback by some of the play, no? But I will say, was that you that somebody asked me, or was 93 that good? I said 93 was a problem all week.
Yeah, 93 is
I said that low key, that was the key matchup. He's a problem.
Yeah, I talked about that. That guy's a monster. Ben Scott also played horrifically, and the one thing I will push back on about Shafe is that he said that none of these guys are playing good. Justin Evans had his best game. There were times that Justin Evans made 93 look like he wasn't even going to play. He wasn't going to play college.
Yeah, when he got a chance to come down, like that game was all about angles, right? Like,
yeah.
When he got a chance to block back and I mean, you weren't gonna reach him, but like that game was all about power at the point of attack. TK, at what point did you think UCLA had a clear advantage of knowing what Nebraska was doing? Because for me, it happened about 3 minutes into the second quarter.
Yeah, I'd say middle of the first half. I think they really caught on. Unfortunately, I think
had you ever seen a team move?
Just make it too obvious.
Had you ever seen a team move that late? Like sometimes the ball was being snapped, and you only do that unless you know where the ball's going.
Yeah, the only teams that do that is if that's their scheme. That's not UCLA's scheme. They had a real good idea of what Nebraska wanted to do.
Yeah, yeah. All right, TK.
Appreciate the call. It's good to see you this weekend.
We'll see you.
Thanks, buddy.
There was. I thought Justin Evans played well on Saturday. I think Shafe's point was like season long. Like I think he was talking about over the course of the whole season.
Yeah, he was. I think he was.
And there's been points where Justin Evans hasn't played great this year, and that people have wanted more out of him.
True.
So yeah, I mean, you could look at you look at Ohio State, and you'd be like, yeah, Jamari Butler's, best player on the team maybe, but he hasn't played like that all year.
Can I ask you something?
What's up?
I think I'm betting on the fact that coaches have similarly felt the pressure when they come here. And I guarantee I know what fans will say. Oh no, man, you got a long runway, and nobody had it as good as this guy, or this that. I've heard this a long time.
You really don't have that long of a runway.
I've heard it a long time. Okay, and whether it's actually a fireable offense versus us we complain, like maybe that's two different things. But I've heard this is the third coach now, and I would say to some degree the fourth, where I felt like people what's the $64,000 question people always ask here about young players? Well, they play young players other places. They play young players other places. How long have we heard that?
At least back to Bo.
So I have a theory.
Yeah.
I think that sometimes coaches feel the pressure or are afraid to make mistakes with young guys because of this undertone of turning it around. We hear a lot of, hey, we got to tear this thing in from the ground up.
Nobody actually tries to do it.
Nobody, this is kind of the first time, but you got teased with fool's gold because defensively you were good enough to not want to waste the rebuild.
Yeah. I mean, even to a certain
extent.
Does
that make sense?
100%. No, 100%. Because even
because nobody's really that's really the thing.
And it's the thing that Frost told you out loud that he goes, if I had to do it over again, I would have I'd have tore it to the ground and not tried to win right away.
I would have not rolled the dice. You'd have just went young.
Yeah, which is, I even think to a certain extent, Rule, with the convictions that we love about him, I even think he's compromised those a little bit with that. Like, because you're right. He got fool's gold with the defense last year.
I told you, it's a fine line. I said this after and before Indiana. Mm-hmm. The tricky part for this staff is to figure out what goals are still ascertainable, mm-hmm. Attainable. Mm-hmm. They had to ascertain what was still attainable. Let's just say that. Versus, you know what? I know we have some guys with some limitations. We need to look at some things.
Yeah.
It was a very, very, very fine line. And now, and we'll see what can happen over the bye week. Mm-hmm. But now, we'll see what happens with having options. Because as a coach, you always want options, whether it's your staff.
Yeah.
Or your players. It's not just the players, right? You can't be in a 2-by to the field mm-hmm. and use inside leverage, right? Gilmore is running a corner route. You just saw mm-hmm. Charles get beat on it in the first half. Same concept. So are you really watching mm-hmm. what's going? Like how much attention are we paying to?
What's happening in front of us?
What's actually happening?
Yeah. Yeah. So here's my.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Because. That's what, and I seldom get into the nitty gritty of it, but that shouldn't happen to you multiple times the way that it did. Well, I wouldn't say much except people do it to Nebraska all the time.
Yeah. You don't learn from the thing that just happened.
Yeah, people do it to Nebraska all the time.
Yeah.
Well, got a tendency. They're going to do this. What do you think's happening when they're on the hard hash? Mm-hmm. They have the field, a 2-by, and the guy tightens his split down along the hash. He's closer because he wants to move out.
Yeah. He's giving himself space. He's giving the quarterback space.
So why, if I stack you inside, do you want to
you want to shift out to take away?
You don't have any help there.
That option.
You just got mad at Charles for doing the same thing. Mm-hmm. So it's things like that where I'm like, man, I don't know. There's no way that's being coached, mm-hmm. but do you feel like you have options? If you're upset, how long are you going to talk about perimeter blocking?
Yeah. Before you just put people out there that are going to do it.
And say, hey, because
is there nobody out there on the team that can do it? Is that the answer? Is there nobody in that room that can do it?
You know when you'd probably do it?
When?
If you didn't think your quarterback was very good or your defense was very good.
You know why you could do it last year?
Because that's what that's what people want.
Yeah.
But you can't sacrifice. You can. You have to figure out what you're going to sacrifice.
What you're willing to sacrifice.
What you're willing to sacrifice.
It's the same thing we talk about when you're talking about scheming up a defense.
Am I going to waste this year with my quarterback's development? Mm-hmm. And maybe you're not wasting it, but that's what they have to think about.
That's what it feels like to the fans, at least.
Yeah.
Right?
That's what you have to
think
about.
Oh, how come Dylan Rilo is only throwing it 18 times a game? How come we're not why aren't our best receivers? Why aren't the guys that we paid in the offseason to come here out making game-breaking plays? We saw Isaiah Nayor. Why isn't he out there making plays, right?
Yeah, people thought I was crazy. I'm jobless and I'm struggling, and I'm like, you guys called me, and I'm like, ideally, mm-hmm. build the pieces up around Dylan so he doesn't have to be that good.
Yeah.
Right?
So he can just be.
Because if you looked at the roster, it was either going to be new guys or young guys. Mm-hmm. We didn't get that. So what was my number one concern? I hope the mentality of guys that aren't used to being counted on, that's one of the things I got to watch.
Yeah.
If I want to know the direction of this season. I'm not down on old guys, and I'm not saying you've lost too much, but what I'm saying is, because everybody can have a philosophical or a mind shift. Mm-hmm. You can grow. There's this thing called the growth mindset.
Yeah.
Right? So you can do that. But were they going to get off or have enough success or enough cushion? Mm-hmm. You just don't know about people's psyches.
Yeah.
But one of the guys that I was willing to roll the dice on, not to single him out just because I think he's playing pretty okay, but I knew Bullock's temperament.
Yeah.
And
you weren't worried about him.
And he's athletic, because some people want it. It's like the girl. It's like the dating the pretty girl thing.
Sometimes you want to go out with the
she's just not going to say. See, Bullock has all the tools.
Yeah, he's got the physical capabilities for his want to matter.
Yep.
Right.
So that's why I ride with him.
And that's
because I'll take his mind.
That's the rub, right? Is do your physical abilities, are they good enough to make the want to matter? And if you've got the physical abilities, do you have the want to?
Yeah, I tell Budo, I'm like, hey, man, you're gifted physically. Just go get it.
Yeah.
At some point, enough's enough, right?
Which, if Coach Rule didn't think these guys could play, he wouldn't say, hey, we just got to go make plays.
I know.
He would.
He told you.
He told you that they're good enough to make the plays, that physically they're able. This is a mental thing.
And he said, I'm over it.
That's Bet on It, brought to you by Warhorse Sportsbook. Warhorse Sportsbook, no bets, no glory.